where did the idea for the Blind Pig come from? Like, why the name the Blind Pig?
That's a good question. All right, I'm very glad that you asked that question.
Thank you.
All right, so the whole business thing was always a thing. You know, when we were hanging out, there was always like a lot of car talk. You know, driving somewhere, there was a lot of business talk, whatever, back and forth. So anyway, when the bar came in, we were thinking about names, and we were throwing a few around. We wanted to name the bar after like famous gang, or you know, something kind of cool. The Pearl Buttons, Hudson Duster was one, but Hudson Grill's already in White Plains, so we didn't want to do that.
Old school gang names from New York.
Just ones that sound cool, like the Dead Rabbits. You know,
the Dead Rabbit's a great one.
It's a fantastic name. It really, really is. You know, but those didn't come up, and we ended up settling on the Blind Pig. And honestly, I hate it.
It's waiting on fries. That you don't get it. You don't. What do you mean you don't get waiting on fries?
Hopefully the customer never hears waiting on fries. But all this time on the entree and it's perfectly executed, and then you're like,
ready to go.
I forgot to fire the fries.
I just always use that when I forgot to put somebody's order in, and I was like, hey, I'm just waiting on the fries. It's gonna be 2 more minutes. Realistically, I come back 10 minutes with the food.
Exactly. They just know that their food's not there, and the server said they're still waiting on fries.
I guess we're just waiting on fries.
Not only because we're fans of Sloop Brewing Company, but also because they've sponsored this show.
Sloop Brewing Company operates out of Fishkill, New York, and are brewers of the one and only Juice Bomb Northeastern IPA and other world-class ales and lagers.
Visit their Instagram at Sloop Brewing Co. or find their website, sloopbrewing.com, in the show notes. We've got a lot happening today. We've got Dano, we've got James from the Blind Pig coming through in a little bit. They're going to talk to us about what it's like opening a bar and going through all these crazy things and hoops that you have to jump through to get this thing open, going from guys that were just bartenders before, right? What else we have? We have a weird Yelp story.
I'm just in a great mood that all the hoops that I had to go through for the last 10 days are over and my restaurant's open again.
It was nice to see people there. It was nice to see people there.
Thanks.
But we've got a good Yelp issue, right?
Yeah, so we've got a Yelp issue kind of dealing with awareness and being aware of where your customers are and being sure to check up on them so they don't feel left alone and ignored.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to leave people sitting ignored outside or in the bar or whatnot. Acknowledge people. That's why they came out.
Acknowledgement, yes.
They want to be seen. They want to have a conversation sometimes, right?
Exactly.
And then also we've got an interesting voicemail about ghost kitchens.
Haunted kitchens.
No, that's not what we mean. But
it's got one of those brooms.
we'll get into that though. But I was at work the other day in the city, and you know when you show up, nothing's going on. You're just doing your prep work, right? It's quiet. There's not so much activity. Maybe like the managers are like sitting in the back doing whatever paperwork they've got to do on their computer, or just sipping that glass of soda that they've been sipping for the last hour doing nothing. And then things start to get a little bit more busy, right? That happens. And as things are progressing and getting a little bit busier, the tables start filling up. So I'm sitting here working. You guys having a blast. I'm sitting here working, and next thing you know, there's 4 managers just sitting on this gigantic communal table as this bar is like starting to fill to capacity, and we need these goddamn chairs. And I'm just like, does anybody not realize what's happening here?
So did you actually say something out loud to somebody to deal with the situation?
No, I death gazed across the room. You know, I'm low man on the totem pole there, so I'm not the one that's running over to be like, hey, are you fuckers out of your mind? Like, go take this downstairs to the office?
I understand where you're coming from being low man on the totem pole, I guess, but I feel like somebody should have spoken up in that situation.
I feel like also yelling profanity across the bar is an equal deterrent to what was going on.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked. So I didn't do that. I was thinking about it internally. I internalized my feelings. I didn't actually let them out.
But what you could have done is just, calmly and, in an adult-like manner, walked up to those guys and be like, hey, I could really use this table for some paying customers right now.
Yeah, we definitely could have. It didn't pan out that way.
I never understood what led to that type of style where like the management is just out on the table or the bar top with their laptop out and essentially running the back end of the restaurant from the front of the restaurant. Like, and when someone would walk in and say, hey, and they're just like typing on their iPad or I don't even know what they're doing because I'm not sure what back end restaurant work needs to be done at like 7:30.
It was all the work that they didn't do throughout the day as they were walking around doing nothing.
I don't know if it's...
I mean, that's totally what you want to see when you walk into a restaurant. Someone doing office work.
I want to make sure that they're, keeping up
like,
on their...
We have office work to do, and we're going to do it right here.
Right.
Check him out. He's doing
I'm
awesome.
monitoring the Yelp from the front. That way I can see who wrote this Yelp review that just comes in negatively. All right.
Exactly.
But I think awareness in general, like whether it be being self-aware or forecasting the future of issues that occur through, a bar and restaurant, can save you a lot of money and a lot of time. And not only that, but just like make your day flow far smoother. Another example too, I used to work in a bar in this town that was a high volume party bar with a lot of kids running around. And throughout the week, I was always screaming, we should have a lock.
You mean kids like little children?
Yeah. Okay. And I was like, we should have a lock on the kitchen door. Like, there's nobody here to really be able to see what's happening around that corner. And it's just so easily available to guys that are walking into the bathroom. And sure enough, it was like 3 weeks later on a Friday, Saturday night, I'm bartending, super in the weeds, like just a handful of people backed up. And I see the DJ light hit the corner of the bar and it shined. And I looked to the side and a kid's wielding a kitchen knife. And I instantly jumped the bar and flagged the bouncers. And he wasn't like threatening. I think he was just a dumb young dude that had a couple drinks and was like, yo, I grabbed the knife from the kitchen, bro. But now working somewhere where I'm currently at, and we won't say anything about where this is, but, they keep the knife that we use to cut fruits within arm's length of guests. And it's not even just like a Tuesday, not a Wednesday. It's like Friday, Saturday too. It just goes right back in the same spot. And I'm sitting here like, do you not forecast what's going to happen in the future?
I guess I understand where you're coming from, but again, that's like a very specific situation, it seems, to have somebody reaching out to grab your knives from across the bar. And I've definitely never heard of somebody running into the kitchen and grabbing a knife and taking it back out to the dining room. That's crazy.
Yeah, these scenarios are just
specific
so strange to me.
It's just like the weird shit that happens in nightlife that doesn't really happen while it's still regular time periods for the most
super
part.
Weird, I gotta be honest.
When I was in the come up though, like I worked at a couple of bars and restaurants that were open pretty late. I've never seen someone run into the kitchen area and grab a knife and come like yielding
come back out,
yielding
like,
it
crazy.
into the public.
I agree. I think it's absolutely insane. But the amount of things that just go wrong.
Were there other people in the kitchen when the kid grabbed the knife?
I have no idea. The bar is way far away from the kitchen, which is why I
like,
suggested
was
a
the
lock.
kitchen like operating? Was it selling food?
No. This is like
kitchen's
1
closed.
a.m. or something. It's just lights off in the back of the kitchen. It's an open kitchen to some extent. It's crazy not to foresee the problem with things that occur or could occur.
It's poor design to have an open kitchen and close it when you're operating. I think.
I feel like you're not making the most of your space if you're doing that.
if you're gonna close your kitchen, I'm assuming in the scenario that you're talking about, the kitchen closed at like 10, something along those lines, and they transition from a restaurant service into a party atmosphere, and then kind of close off half of that restaurant and then operate in that aspect, correct?
Yeah.
So if you're going to do that, I don't know if you need an open kitchen because you lose part of the ambiance. And if it's that far away from the bar, I feel like when you have an open kitchen concept, you want the bar and the kitchen to be close to each other and work in sync. So it's all like part of the show.
That would make sense.
I don't know.
It's not a well-built design. And in the event that you are operating the restaurant differently and then more in a high-volume bar setting, then you have to put the precautions up to make it operate as such.
Agreed.
Like,
that seems like just an oversight though, and not so much an operational. I don't know with that specific scenario. I have
back to a couple episodes ago too, where we talked to Rocco about the way that you use partitions to open up and close a business. Like that specific space in White Plains where the bar is a big rectangle bar, and it has this whole area to fill people up top. This whole down and in dining room that exists that's just like empty throughout the week, which does kind of tie into the kitchen, could easily just get like a fence put up. And that a fence would work in this industrial type of like barbecue type place, I think, with a lock on it just so nobody could go in there.
You mean like a chain link fence?
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Definitely some kind of separation that would prevent crazy drunk people from running in the kitchen and
stealing
grabbing
knives.
a knife and yielding it.
And wielding knives. I mean, that goes for anything, though. Like, we see so much crazy shit that happens late night in the bars where people just, like... for instance, another bar that I've worked at, somebody just opened up the back door to go downstairs, and they were down grabbing bottles of beer, and they came up with literally fists full of beer from the downstairs cooler. And then not only that, they got lost downstairs, and they came up the other door for the other establishment. And the manager came running over and goes, "Where the hell did this kid just come from? He just ran up with beers in his hand."
That's ridiculous. You guys need to lock your doors a little better.
I agree. We have foolproof the system, you know?
Or just watch people better. I'm sorry, I have nothing when it comes to this.
Because you do a good job watching people.
As far as I've never professionally, operationally, I've never been involved somewhere where I had to keep people out of the beer room or liquor room.
And it's going to happen, though, Justin. We got to put those precautions in ahead.
Don't you put that on him.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Well, you get to 5 locations. You have to make sure that you're building them appropriately.
I promise
for this.
you, I will never have that issue.
I can't wait until we knock on wood there.
Both issues.
Nice. Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. Last night I'm at the bar towards the end of the night, and we were about to close, and a couple of gentlemen were speaking politics.
Bad idea.
And they were getting a little. I think they agreed. I think they were on the same side of the fence.
Yeah, until they're not.
Politically, but they were starting to get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Not like fighting, but like really get into what they were talking about.
Right.
So I said, hey, no politics at the bar. And they both looked at me like, "Oh, are you serious?" And I was like, "Can't talk politics at the bar. It's number one rule. It's a bar rule."
I'm with it.
And they looked at me like I was crazy, and I was like, "I'm serious. No politics at the bar. Please refrain." And they looked at me like they never heard this before. But coming up, that was the first thing I ever learned.
It's like no religion, no politics. Right?
Don't talk politics and don't talk religion. You can have your beliefs and whatever you want, but you don't want to engage in those two conversations because people get real charged up about it, and it's like a boiling point. So I told them they look like they had never heard that before.
That's the problem is like with drinks, your personalities go to 100. And then when you have a misunderstanding or you're sitting at different sides of the fence, all of a sudden that demolition charge hits. And that's exactly where you get no politics at the bar, because you could agree on the same candidate or you could agree in the same party. And then, God forbid, somebody brings up abortion and their stance on it. And next thing you know, there's bottles flying across the room. That's not where you want to be at.
Yeah, definitely not.
So we're in agreement. I was right
you were for sure right.
to negate the conversation.
No politics at the bar.
Yeah. Sometimes I won't directly say it, but I'll just lead the conversation in a different direction. And since drinks have been had, they completely forget about what the conversation was they were having previously anyway.
That's a good point.
Look at me, fucking
That's a good
magician
point.
out here.
I'm excited about our guest today.
We've got Dano and James with us from the Blind Pig in White Plains. This is really a cocktail bar. The first bar you could really go to in the area that you can actually get a cocktail from, where you're not worrying about how long has the vermouth been sitting out and open, like you would in some places at the end of the day, right? Like, you get a quality cocktail here.
Well, welcome, guests.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having us.
James, Dano, you guys have known each other for quite some time now.
It's been a while, yeah, probably since I came here, anyway.
Yeah, how long ago did you meet?
6 years.
6 years, it'll be coming on 7 now, and soon enough. Coming on 7 now, soon enough, yeah.
7 years, and that's through a handful of different bars. I mean, I know you guys from Brazen Fox at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I started because I used to work construction when I came here first, and I actually used to work with his brother.
Okay.
And then I started working with him in a bar in the Bronx called the Coachman's. Actually, the owner of that place backed us. So we're co-owners of Blind Pig, so his name is Kirby Mannix. He was lucky enough. I think he believed more in Dano than he did believe in the idea. That's what they say anyway. They say it's
he did not know what a cocktail was. He
No.
still does.
Yeah, I don't think he still does.
It's
right?
only now he's kind of understanding what we set out to do.
Gotcha.
But I feel like he got on board because he seen our work ethic, and he was like, "All right, I know whatever the lads are going to do, they're putting their head to, and they're gonna do their best at it, and we're trying our best to do what we're trying to do." He sees that. Now, he doesn't understand it, but he sees it, and it's been a good journey from like working in a dive bar, running a dive bar for this guy, to working in White Plains, that's in the Bronx, to working in White Plains in a high-end cocktail bar, so it's definitely, it's for all of us been a funny jump, but at the same time, I feel like it was always going to go that way. Like, I knew from when I first worked for Kirby that one day I would definitely be running a bar for him or with him, and me and James spoke about it since we would like obviously work together, and then when he went to the city, came back up and was working on Brazen Fox with us, and once we start hanging out outside of work as well, like, getting into our routine, we always spoke about the same things, like, look, we're going to open a bar, this is what we're going to do. So
there's always talk of doing something anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then over time, then you're like, why don't you just do a bar? Like, we're both bartenders, like, we should just do a bar.
Yeah,
It just makes sense.
At one time we were looking to open a gym.
Yeah, it was. What was it? It was a gym, and there was a deli,
Yeah.
and there was
deli.
was there a gas station? No, it wasn't a gas station.
A McDonald's drive-through.
That's still a good
One
idea.
time, that is a good
That's still
idea.
a good
You
idea.
can't go wrong with a McDonald's
And do you know how much
drive-through.
money it costs to open a McDonald's? They say you need
Oh,
like
yeah.
two million in
million.
like liquid capital.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
But you
of
also
money.
think McDonald's don't close, whenever one opens up, like, it's there.
Exactly,
You
yeah.
never
Oh,
see it
man.
close, so.
Stick in a McDonald's drive-through and
Yeah.
someone's driving through it. I'm telling you that much. People will walk through it.
People will walk. I was just going to
Go
say
to the
that.
Bronx, they're walking through it. They don't
Yeah.
got cars. They're still going to
They
the
want a
drive-through.
cheeseburger. They want a cheeseburger.
So you guys have always essentially kind of just been business minded, and I'm sure that's where this friendship comes together.
Maybe you more so than me, but honestly, man, I'm from rural Ireland.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a sheep over here, and there's a cow over there, and that's it. You know what I mean? None of my family ever had like a business, or none of my very close friends ever had a business. So, actually, we got to give a lot of thanks to Vinny Nanzani. Vinny Nanzani,
Yeah.
Phil Gasparino, all them boys, like Brian Silverman as well to a certain degree. They were always like,
The lads who we met in Brazen.
yeah, man, seriously, changed their life.
They
They were always talking about business
genuinely-
big time.
And the guys who own Brazen, Declan Rainsford and Rory
And Rory
Dolan,
Dolan,
like,
yeah.
they 100% affected our decisions and which way to go about things, and they showed us a lot of what we do and how we treat our guests, and like, they genuinely, a lot of our staple points of what we instill in our bar restaurant would be what we learned from them guys. But we're the next generation, and we're out and seeing what's going on, and we're involved in it, and we're doing it. So it's like, now I'm sure they're looking at us and they're like, okay, they're using what we gave them, but they're using it differently.
Right.
But that's what it's all about, because it's the next step,
Improving.
and that's
Improving,
what's
following trends. Trends is a
Yeah.
big thing too,
So you, and not to cut too far off to the point, but before we get away from it, a lot of people, I don't realize this. The West Coast doesn't really deal with Irish boys. They don't have them over
California.
there like that. Yeah, it's not in the same droves and numbers that
I
we
get
have
you.
here on this East Coast.
Yeah.
So, working at Black Bear for some time with the Irish boys over there, I learned a lot from just people coming literally off the boat and coming to visit and me saying, why is everyone coming here and why are they always work in bars? And the
It's
answer was always
handy.
like, there's no work at home.
Yeah,
That's
zero.
the thing. There's
Yeah.
no work.
In the city, maybe where he's from, maybe, but
Man.
where I'm from, zero, man.
Where
If I got a job, I'd be lucky to have a job. You know what I mean? And I'd probably be making dirt, and I'd be lucky to be making that. You know what I mean?
Yes. Where honestly, where I came from, man, is government housing. You know what I mean? Like, very few people were employed where I left, and I was one of few people who was employed when I went to school and stuff. I always stayed employed because my household just didn't have that kind of funds to not have me employed. But what I will say is, man, that's where you learn to grind. You got to understand, is like, we're Irish guys. We come out here, and ladies as well. We come out here and we haven't had it super easy all the time. Now, I'm not saying we came from third world countries, but there's just not the same opportunities in Ireland. So
Yeah,
when we
definitely
come
not.
out here and I'm like, oh, wow, people are talking about, I did an 18-hour shift, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll open, close Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And that's great. I have no problem doing that.
Yeah.
And then
And you
it's
see
the
Irish
grind.
guys with,
It's like, like
businesses
we're
and stuff.
used to the grind.
Mad.
We've been grinding since we came here. America is all about work, and some people in America are all about play.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to a good quality too. All the guys that I've worked beside definitely have that work mentality where nobody's bitching about their 9-hour shift, their 8-hour shift. In fact, they want more hours. Give me more.
Yeah.
Man, when
It's
I
gotta
go
have the
when I go
positive
to bed
mental
at night,
attitude,
I
you know?
pray to God, and I pray to God to send me more work every night. I say I love the work, send me more.
It's actually funny. We call at the restaurant, if you work a day shift, like let's say you come and open the restaurant,
Half
and
day.
if you leave and it's light out, we call it off. You're
Yeah.
off today.
Yeah.
You didn't actually work. If
But
the
that's
sun's
what it
still up
feels
when you
like.
leave
If the
work.
sun
you
is
didn't
still up
actually-
when you leave, you're
man,
off.
that's
But
what it
that's
feels
true,
like.
man. Yeah,
You know?
yeah. It's crazy. The shifts that I have at the minute, I work Tuesday, right? So I start at 4, which means we're probably in there, after we get the morning done. So it's probably like 2 o'clock, right? But so we're in there from 2, start bartending at 4 until 4 a.m. and have to open the following day. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna bring a change of clothes, sleep over here. I mean, might as well. I'm saving myself like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But then you get up the next day and you open, and then you get off at 6.
You feel
Because
like
I've done the
you're
day,
off.
and I'm like, all right, I'm off. This is great. Like, I barely even worked today. This is phenomenal. You know what I mean? But that's just how it is, really.
But
The
it's
bar
a
doesn't sleep,
lifestyle.
you know what I mean?
It is a lifestyle.
It definitely is a lifestyle. Yeah.
The industry's a
Yeah.
lifestyle, and if you want to make it as a career, you gotta love it.
Yeah.
You gotta love it for
You
what
gotta
it
be in
is.
it
like,
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can, I feel like you can really change your mindset about liking it. Like, one thing I would say is, like, from not having any business perspective or any kind of business, knowledge prior, so you really do have to change your way of thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't just be like normal, like, employee. You have to, like, think about it, like, all the time, first of all. And also you have to kind of elevate your thinking. Like, because when we were opening the place, like, there was a lot of things that came up with the building specifically that we weren't aware of. It was the first business. And we had we didn't have any knowledge. So, like, these things come up, and one thing goes bad and you're like, oh shit, like, everything's fucking wrong, the place is coming down. You have to really, like, you be aware that things are going to come up. You have to
gotta
be able to
just
deal with
work
those.
through them.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
When we found
there's no
out-
giving up. Like, you just constantly got to work through everything.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is.
When we found out that we couldn't have gas in the kitchen, and we were told that we had a gas kitchen that was ready to rock.
Yeah.
When we found out that we couldn't have gas in the kitchen because there's a moratorium on in Westchester.
Con Edison.
When we found out that, James rang me. I was working down the city.
I
in the
remember. I was
junction.
like, oh,
Shout out
he's
to the
gonna
junction.
freak now when I tell them how it is.
I was bartending. I walked outside and he was freaking. And I was like, we had already signed our lease. Like, and I was like, James, like, we can't fucking get you. What are we going to do? And I was like, oh my God, like, this is the world's coming down on top of us. And then I had to go back in. I'm in
finish your
Murray
shift.
Hill. And we have a full bar in here. And I got back in here and put on a smile and started rocking again.
But it's just, again, it's just like, that was the first thing that came up. Of course there was going to be things that come up. Like, it's normal.
It's
You know what I mean?
and I was gonna ask why, because I saw you guys open without the kitchen, and I was
Yeah.
gonna ask that why. Like, did you want to build the bar first or the kitchen? But now you answered the question.
Thank God we did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Honestly, we're very, very lucky in the situation that we're in so far that we can focus on the bar.
Yeah.
Because if you've done both, the bar, I wouldn't say the bar is a shit show, but it's definitely not running at 100% efficiency. You know what I mean? And then if you had to have both, now both are slacking
So you
for
would be-
double the time.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
like I said, it's not running at 100% efficiency, but every Saturday we go in there, and every single Saturday we make sure that the next Saturday is something is improved. We take one thing from behind our bar every week, and we're like, how can we improve this? Last week we put in a new sink. This week we're putting in 2 more because it's easier to use for us for the cocktails for the dump sinks. Next week we're putting in a wine cooler so that we have our wine stocked and cooled upstairs in a wine cooler. Like, every week we definitely make sure to throw back into what it is, because that's what we're here to improve it as much as we can.
So if you don't have gas in the kitchen, what's your plans for operating the
Electric.
kitchen? Electric.
Yeah.
All electric.
Yeah, electric equipment works just as well.
Yeah.
Death and
but-
Co has an electric kitchen.
Yeah, everything in their kitchen is electric.
All
so
electric.
What type of
We
food
went
are you
down
trying
to
to do?
Death and Co and we were chatting to them guys, and we jumped behind the bar that was in there, and they were nice enough to show us some stuff that they do and how they do it and what way it works. And they have an electric kitchen, and they're putting out food at
Yeah, really
great
good,
food.
yeah, really good food.
It really comes down to your chef at
Yeah,
that
yeah.
point, I think. And our chef, he's really talented, and he's definitely he's here for the challenge. Like, he's excited to take part in it, and that obviously means a lot. But if we had it opened up with food, let me tell you, at one point, me and James were doing the cloping, as they call it, the
Yeah.
close open.
Yep.
And
Very familiar with that.
very familiar, right?
with that, chef.
That's
that
like-
goes
that's
out
like-
to
it's
our
an industry
bartender,
standard.
Justin.
Got it.
Justin taught us that one, the cloping.
Cloping, yeah.
Right. So we're doing the cloping, and we ran out of Brazilian pink pineapple syrup, and we ran out of blackberry puree and raspberry puree, and we're going home to make that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that has to be in the morning, and I'm open. So when we leave, James, it's 5:30. James goes home, and James make raspberry. I make blackberry, and that's what it was like at the start. And not many people are gonna like do.
Not many people have that in them.
And that's why the cocktail thing, it can be very hard, especially if you're trying to get on your feet and do it yourself, and you don't have a huge amount of finances behind you to start off until like your income starts coming in. Like, because me and James, when we first started working, like I had been out of work since September because I had given up my job to open up this restaurant in September, and I had told him that in the February before. And James, he was just after finishing off in Brazen Fox, and we still hadn't opened. And like all of our finances went into the bar that we had, and like we were both in the red line, you know. So it was it wasn't fun.
I'm
Like,
still
you know what I
like,
mean?
I'm
The only
almost out of it
money
now.
we had, we were after putting in, and then we're up all night. We gotta get back in the next day, and we're trying to get it up and running. If you're somebody who has like 5 other bars, 6 other bars, and you can like use your resources, that definitely helps. But for the likes of us who come from the industry, who are bartenders, and who are like, look, we're giving it a shot because this is what we like to do, and we didn't have that kind of financial aid, as you will, because obviously we're not that, you know, we're not them guys.
Yeah, just like Joe Soaps.
Yes, but not having that definitely, that made it a lot harder. But it's not impossible. Like, you know, anybody who works in the industry who really wants to put their head in and do it, the thing about it is, I get hired, okay? I get hired and people hire me to do a job. And I've never missed work, and I always show up, and I've never had an issue with it. Now, why, if these people keep hiring me, why do I not hire myself to do this job? Because they think I'm doing a great job, so I can do it for them, I can do it for me. And that's where it was time to make your money work for you. And James is the same. Like, he was a staple at Brazen Fox as a bartender. They were said they're sorry to have him go. You know? And I would hire James as a bartender for me, so why not hire yourself?
Right.
And that's where we got it to, like, you know?
The and that's another thing too, is like bartenders all the time. Like, I'm gonna open a bar one day. I'm gonna open a bar one day, and they don't maybe realize how much really does go into this. Like you just said, you were out of work since September trying to open up this bar. There's like 3 months later that you have to make sure that you have that additional funding to just survive.
Yeah, man.
And that's not even the doors opening or
No, just yourself.
realizing that there's gonna be problems like
Yeah.
trying to get these doors open.
Yeah. Whatever I would say to people, whatever, if you wanted to open a bar, whatever you think it's going to cost, triple it.
Yeah.
Triple it.
Not even
Like-
double, triple
like
it. Yeah.
One
I was
thing,
gonna say double.
man, triple. I was going to say, like, whatever you think. The one thing that I don't think most people know is, let's say you're taking a lease on a building, right? Depending for us, we don't have any prior business history, so we have to give more money up front. So you move into your apartment, you have to give 1 month's rent, 1 security. You open a business lease, you have to give 1 month's rent and 6 months security. You know what I mean? Depending, if your rent is, let's say, 10 grand, that's 100 grand. No, it's not. What is it? 60. 60. Sorry, I'm retarded. 60. But it's 60 G's. Like, that's 60 G's gone. Like, straight away. You know what I mean? Like, before anything else.
Yeah, man. It's definitely...
crazy.
I spent my last $300, and this is legitimately... I spent my last $300 that I had in my bank account on shirts and slacks to wear into the Blind Pig on my first week. That's what I was like, listen, I'm all in now. This is it. Like, you know, I'm dressed to go into work, and let's work and hope for the best.
Well, we'll talk about those outfits in a little bit, and you certainly do look like $300 behind the bar. I will say that. But like, circle back before we get like too far into the opening of Blind Pig too, right? So you're working together. You're deciding that all right, this guy's got a good head on his shoulder. I've got a good head on my shoulder. Maybe we're looking to potentially open a business, and you just said too a little bit earlier that you were looking to open various different things before you were like, wait. We're behind the bar. Let's open a bar. At what point did you acknowledge each other's strengths? Like, we're not all great at everything, right? Somebody's better at something than others, and you need that to actually coexist.
And I learned a lot from James. A lot, like, from when we start hanging out together. He is way more level-headed than I. And I learned a lot from watching him deal with situations that I see myself not being able to deal with. And then I also learned a lot from him in the way of he didn't know about everything. Like, no one knows about everything, but what he put his head to, he got straight into it and picked it up. And when I seen stuff like that, I was like, all right, this is, if I'd rather be the slowest guy in the room than the quickest, right? Like, you know, it's like you surround yourself with good people. So I was like, right, James is better than this than I am. So this is what I got to watch out for. Like, we both have our strong points, and, you know, his strong points definitely made me realise that they were my weak points and that I could learn from him in that way. So that was good.
But it goes vice versa also. You know, that's a good point. But I think you're not going to find somebody that's perfect. Oh, this is a perfect business relationship. You know what I mean? But over time, you know, there's one thing that you have to be very aware of is you have to be very open to criticism. I feel like, you know, from being in a restaurant as well, like everybody's going to come in and say, oh, you should do this or whatever. You know, and things not going wrong, and you think things are going not what they should, and you think it might be your idea. Like, I wanted to do something in the restaurant that the boys didn't like, and I really, really wanted it. I'm like, you know what, the boys have a point, they don't like it, I gotta drop this, you know, and then we don't, and it goes vice versa, you know what I mean?
There's a lot of give and take.
There's a lot of give and take. You really got to work together as a team.
And you hear more criticism than you do.
Oh yeah, criticism all the time.
You can do everything perfect, and you'll hear the critic.
But sometimes you've got to just like really listen to it, because they might have a good point.
And
for sure.
Just don't get your ego in the way. Like, you know what, that's actually a good idea.
Big time. And honestly, like, some of the things that I ended up liking the most were things that I would have been opposed to, or a lot of the ideas that came about that were ones that I really enjoy now are ones that I didn't enjoy when first brought to me, but that could have been because I would have had an opposing idea which I thought was good at the time, but obviously in hindsight I'm like, oh, this is a great idea, this is what I'm happy we done, you know. And I feel like you get better at that the more you do it, as opposed to nobody's great at that at the start. I feel like that's something that you get good at with practice, and to the point where sometimes you might get too good at it, where you start being overly nice, you know, like where you might drop your own points.
And see, like Justin, like what you were saying before about the business thing, it's crazy coming from Ireland. Like, when you run into guys and they own, for me it was construction companies. The guys, I own $1 million construction company. I'm like, that is crazy. Like, how did you come about? And then, you know, over time, then you realise, so like, America is really all about like work, which is good, because that's what we come here for. You know what I mean? And there is endless opportunities. So as long as you're willing to put your head down, you can just constantly like grow. And then for me anyway, personally, it was you know, I'm very comfortable working where I was working in Brazen Fox. Like, it was very, very, but in 10 years time, you know, I might have a wife, I might have a kid, you know, might have a few more bills than I normally do have, and is where I am now going to cover where I am then? You know, like, that's the thing for me, I think, for both of us in general, is we are not in this for money, I don't think. We're in this for more security. You know, like, again, I don't ever plan on like maybe getting married or having a kid, but it's probably going to happen. You know, the same for any of us, you know what I mean? But, you know, when we're in that situation, I want to be able to look after my wife, my kid, my mother, my father, my sister. My sister's getting married next year. Like, I would like to be in the position where I'm able to like really cover most of her wedding. You know, stuff like that, you know, that's means a lot. You know, so you really just, you constantly have to be growing. You can't be stagnant. You have to be working harder all the time, or like grow your assets or something. You know what I mean? Because otherwise you're going to be, like, someone said it to me not that long ago, like, you get a new phone every single year. You know what I mean? Like, how often do you improve yourself?
Yeah.
You know, Brian Matcombe, if he's listening, cheers, lad. That was him. A SWAT team officer in Greenberg. He told me that before. It's good. You know?
It's interesting you said that too, because I think it was last episode we were talking about being able to take a step back to go forward.
Yeah.
Right? And that was something I did, like, when I was bartending before I started I started as a busboy and then take out whatever.
Work up,
but eventually got to bartending, and then at that point in my life, I was making more than most of my friends were making. But
as a bartender?
Yeah. And I knew the same thing. I said, I'm making great money, but I'm kind of capped. Like, this is what I'm going to make.
Yeah, you got to move up again.
You know, I'm working 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Busting ass.
Every night.
Yeah.
I'm making good money, but I'm never going to go above that. And when I do, at the time I was single, so it didn't matter. But if I do get married and do have kids, I'm going to want to spend some time with them, probably.
Of course, yeah.
Right?
You can't take time off and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was, I knew I had to go backwards to go forwards.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we talked about it. People like struggle with that sometimes.
Of
They
course.
think they want to be a manager. They think they want to be an owner. because they think, oh, if I'm making this money, they make that money.
Yeah.
They don't see the
They don't-
struggle
they don't
before
see
that.
exactly. steps
Yeah,
that go
there's
into
a
it,
lot.
you know?
Yeah.
Like it's like that iceberg picture. You ever see that iceberg and it's like success, and then underneath it's like doubt, criticism, late nights, hard work,
man,
and you're like, shit.
I
You know,
looked
that's really
at-
what it is.
I worked for Bernie Riley, and he's the man who
He owns Connolly's.
he runs
The Perfect
Connolly's
Pint.
and the Perfect Pint,
Sean's and
and
Megan's.
the Marion Row Hotel, which I actually opened up with them, and I did the cocktail program in there for them guys. But I worked with him, and I learned a lot from him, and I learned a lot from working under Declan and Rory Dolan. And my thing is, I'm 27, and James is 25, and I've got at least 20 years of hard work in me, like at least, and I'm talking real hard work. I can outwork most people. And I genuinely believe when I look at Rory and stuff, I'm like, they guys did it, and they did it off just hard work. And if they can do it off just hard work, I've got 20 years of newer technology, of more information, of access to pretty much anything I want, as long as I actually want to put my head down to it and do it. There's no reason why I can't do exactly what they did and only the next version of it. And that's what I look at when I look at them guys. I'm like, they paved the way for Irish guys. When we look at like
It's like the American dream, pretty
Yes.
much, when you
Yeah.
imagine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rory Dolan comes from a similar place for me. He's probably like, I want to say 20 minutes drive away from me, well, originally from. But it's the same thing, he comes from a field in the middle of nowhere with a house, and
Yeah.
that's it. But now he's, sure he owns how many
you
restaurants
wouldn't
now?
have enough fingers and toes to count his restaurants in Westchester and the city. And when
We
you
getting
look at
sidetracked, Justin, here. I'm sorry, man. We're just, the conversation's
No,
running away with it.
Yeah, keep going. I'm not
this is
stopping
good.
this
All right, this is
conversation.
good.
when I look at them guys, genuinely, all I think is like, some people look at them and think, oh, they got lucky, this, that. I look at them and I'm like, man, I can definitely do what they did. Like,
Yeah.
they did a good job
Yeah.
for the last
Yeah.
20 years,
But
and
it's
I
like-
can do a good
yeah,
job.
It's like
you know?
somebody says, I can't think, it might be Warren Buffett, I might be wrong, but somebody says, it's funny, the harder that they work, the luckier they get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know, it might be Warren Buffett, I'm not too sure. It's one of those guys in there.
You make valid points too, though. You know, these guys were in this business forever. They
Yeah.
worked their asses off. They didn't have the same things that we have nowadays.
We
to
definitely
build
have
off.
an easier way, yeah.
And I don't know if it's even necessarily easier. It's just, it's different, right? And we have to learn how to use all these tools the same way
Yeah,
they
a lot
learned
more
how to
resources.
use all their
Of
tools.
course.
Yeah.
But, you know, through the years of working on that avenue also, I'm looking at some of these owners and I'm like, they don't know what's really happening anymore. Like, they see the cash sheets, they're seeing what's happening on the back end, they're seeing what's happening in the street, but they're not really visibly seeing the trends
Yeah, I
and
was gonna
moving
say that.
fast
Yeah,
enough to
yeah.
change them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But,
But
you know,
I
if it's
feel
not
like-
broken, don't fix it. You know, like Hudson Grill's a great restaurant, still is. Brazen Fox, great restaurant, still is. You know, that's like a well-oiled machine.
It is.
Yes.
It took like 10, 12 years to get it the way it is.
Mhm.
You know, and trends are definitely important. You know, if you're opening somewhere new, I feel like trends are important. But that place has been a staple, and I really, both those places, and I really think that they're going to continue to be a staple for a long time.
Yeah.
But the trend thing is very important. You're right.
And honestly, what I will say is that as much as you're dead right, but these guys are after moving on into the next part of it.
Yeah.
You know, these guys are after moving on into the part of they're
Almost
the type
just
of people who
investors.
are giving us the
You know what I mean?
chance. Now, them specific guys are not giving us the chance right now. But what I'm saying is they are the guys who are
And not to take anything away from them, they're
No.
like, we don't have any bad blood with those guys
but
at all.
they're the guys who are
Big
coming
thanks
to
to them
people
all.
like me and James now, or yourself, or anyone who they see in the industry, who they see, like they came to Seamus. Seamus is now a partner in Brazen Fox and has been for a while.
Yeah,
they
he was
seen
definitely
something
good at
in
his
him,
job. People
and-
loved him.
Yeah, and they're the guys now who are basically picking out the people who they look at and say, like, they're good for this industry, and right, they're older, like they've got kids and families, and they're ready to enjoy their time off now. They've done the work, and I feel like they are now looking to the guys like me and James and Vincent Anizetti and Phil Gasparino and the guys who are up and coming and want to open up their own restaurants. They're looking at them and like, these guys have great interest in it. These guys are willing to put into work, and I don't need to know what's going on anymore because I have these guys doing it for
Yeah.
me, and that's where they're at now. They're in a new
You know.
position, but yeah, you
This-
know.
And that's
You're
going
right,
back to
they're
like
not.
that's going back to like what we were saying before is Declan Rainsfield. He owns Brazen Fox. You know, he has a wife and a couple of kids now. You know, his priority is more towards those. You know, not spending like 100 hours a week working at the restaurant.
Yeah, or even
I mean-
his priority is not what's going to be the next cocktail. You know, his priority is definitely, when I have 4 kids, I'm sure my priority will not. I was up yesterday trying to fiddle around with cocktails, and we have one coming out, and I want to use squid ink in a cocktail.
Very
Okay,
nice.
so
But Declan doesn't give a fuck.
no.
You know what I mean? It's like,
And
to
you
be
know,
fair, you know what I mean?
honestly,
It's
when
like-
I worked in Brazen Fox, if I had went to Declan on a Thursday night after a long week and been like, "Hey Declan, I have made this cocktail with squid ink in it," he probably would have been like, "That's great, Dano, but I have 4 girls to get up in the morning for school and this and
Yeah,
that, and you know I have 5 other businesses to
Yeah,
run, so
exactly.
you know, bring it up at the next meeting."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fantastic idea, but you got to take care of that kind of thing.
Yes.
Where did the idea for the blind pig come from? Like, why the name the blind pig?
That's a good question. Right, and I'm very glad that you asked that
Thank
question.
you.
All right, so the whole business thing was always a thing. You know, when you're hanging out, there was always like a lot of car talk. You know, driving somewhere, there was a lot of business talk, whatever, back and forth. So anyway, when the bar came in, we were thinking about names, and we were throwing a few around. We wanted to name the bar after like famous gang, or you know something
The Pearl
kind of cool.
Buttons.
The Pearl Buttons, Hudson Duster was one, but Hudson Grill's already in White Plains. We didn't want
Old
to do that.
school gang names from New
Yeah,
York.
just ones that sound cool, like the Dead Rabbits. You know,
The Dead Rabbit's a great one.
It's a fantastic name.
Yeah.
It really, really is. You know, but those didn't come up, and we ended up settling on the Blind Pig. And honestly, I hate it. I hate it at the
James
start.
was not
I was
happy
like,
camper.
no, but this was the first thing that I was like, listen, I'm getting outvoted on. The boys like it. All right, we'll make it work somehow. So thank God, right? Touch wood. Thank God, and hopefully we get more strikes that look like this. The more I looked into it, during the Prohibition, you know, you had your speakeasies, and they were very bougie places. You know, you had celebrities and like your fire department, big shots, and cops and politicians and all those. And then on the lower end of things, you had Blind Pigs, which was more casual, divey, you know, probably like a shithole place that you could go and get a drink. It was more for the people, right? And how they used to circumvent the law was they didn't charge you for drinks. They charged you an entry fee and gave you a complimentary cocktail. That's how they got around the law. So, you know, we always want to do, I think speakeasy started to come more into trend, and cocktails, and they kind of go hand in hand. So we were like, we're going to do this. And then the Blind Pig came up, and I was like, you know, this is actually a perfect name. Like, wow. It's like we're a speakeasy team, but you know, we don't have like the fake storefront, right. And we are in a neighborhood, so we definitely want to be considered, you know, a more casual space. It's like fucking Blind Pig, fuck, it's perfect. I was like, good idea, lads. Like, great, you know. But there you go. You like, you know, you bury your ego, you let the thing go over, and then you're like, you know what, that was a really, really good idea. I'm very glad that we went with that. You know, that's where that came up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, but you know, back to how do you go with your pitch though? Where do you start with this pitch? Do you have a whole PDF document of 7 sheets open?
That's Dano all day.
What'd you do?
He
buddy?
came to me, and I was like, "Good idea, let's go." But he done the work prior to that.
So, honestly, what happened was when I left Brazen Fox and I left White Plains, and I went back down to the city, I seen this like new bang of cocktails. Like I went to the Penrose first, and I was like, wow, I seen what they were doing.
Penrose, great spot.
Yeah. Great cocktail bar. And then I went down to a bar down on 14th Street called Grace's, and they had been opened by one of the guys who used to work in the Penrose, and they had started a cocktail program as well. Then I was approached by Bernie Riley, and he asked me to come back working for him, and he told me about the Marion Row Hotel. It was just a blank space, and basically I was being given run of it, and he was like, so I could do whatever I want. So I was like, I want to do a cocktail spot. So that was right in the middle of Times Square. So I got that was great for our experience. Like, that was great for, like, I was like, this is my template of now what would I do when I'm doing it for myself. So I got to do that for them, and that's still there, and they're going great. So I'm happy for them guys. But once I did that, then Toys came open. And when Toys came open, obviously we had
been looking at a few spaces before that, right?
We'd actually been looking at
2. We had an offer on one.
Yeah, we looked at 2 places, another place in Westchester, and then we looked at the old Copper Face Jacks, right? So we went looking at both places.
And the place in Terrytown.
And we went to a place to Terrytown.
So this was like the
went to
fourth,
look at a few places.
Yeah.
And then once we went into Ty's Tavern, and honestly, I always knew Ty's, but I'd never been in there. It was really old. But we straight away, we were like, right, this is pretty much it. This is the spot. Like, we kind of knew we were like, this is way better. Thank God we didn't get anything else. But then it came down to writing a business plan. So when it came down to writing a business plan to the landlords, basically I just told them what it was.
Yeah, they really believed in the idea too. You have to give it to them.
Like,
they wanted something more millennial, something cool. You know, Ty's Tavern was there for a million years.
Yes.
So they needed something modern.
So we basically
something
brought
nice
them
on the street.
A plan and a picture and a vision. And the vision was exactly, I had a picture of 2 guys behind a bar looking similar to ours, wearing white shirts, suspenders, dicky bows, candle lit, and then we went into the business plan, which was written like we want to do elevated bar food menu. You know, we have a chef who's ready to do that. It's not pub food. We want to do high-end cocktails that are not being done in Westchester. We want to be, this was the plan that I told them, we want to be what you go to the city for. We want to do that. We don't want you to have to go to the city. We want you to be able to get exactly what you want from the city around the corner from your house. And that was the plan.
Yeah.
And we want to bring basically Lower Manhattan, the East Village and Brooklyn
Upper East
to you.
Side.
And that was the plan, because that's what's cool and that's what's going on now. And that wasn't being done in White Plains. And once we wrote the business plan for that, and it was a long process to write in that, but once we did, I feel like straight away they were like, yeah. They had 6 other offers and they were like, yeah. And we told them, we're like, look, we know White Plains. We're very friendly with a lot of people here. We've been working here before. We know the neighbourhood. We know how it works around
very,
here.
very good to me.
We want to be part of the community. We don't just want to take from the community. We also want to give to the community. Hence, like, we plan on sponsoring leagues and we plan on entering teams in leagues and stuff like this. You know, like, we want to have fun with other people as part of the community. We don't want to just be another restaurant. We want to be part of White Plains. And honestly, they definitely asked around about us, and myself and James, I'm sure they got good feedback because they came back to us and they accepted it over the other 6 offers, and we were super happy that they did. And since then, our landlord actually last week had the mayor of White Plains in.
For a fundraising event.
Yeah,
actually,
they had a fundraising event for him, and she set that up herself, so we know she believes in the Blind Pig as well, because she's now bringing business to us, which is great because we have some really, really nice people coming in. And
we're getting amazing feedback as well. Everybody really, like, we're blessed to be able to say that people really like what we're doing, you know, because it's
people like
awesome,
the idea.
of course, you know what I mean? It's first business.
People like the idea, and the fact that we put so much into it, it definitely, hearing back that people are like, you know, we've needed something like this, or this is so refreshing for White Plains. To me, like, that's like music to my ears. I'm like, thank God. Because
I mean, it's in its simplest form, right?
Yes.
I saw an opportunity to fill a need that was lacking in the area.
Yeah.
And I was just saying that before, like, there's not a really good cocktail bar or you know, what you said, the way you described it in the area.
No. Man, we were actually told not to do it.
Everybody.
Yeah, we were told cocktails in White Plains, don't do it. People want beer and shots.
Everybody tells you not to do it. I think every good idea, somebody said don't do it. You don't want to do it. I like to say, well, my dad told me not to do it. Anything, my dad was like, you don't want to do this. Definitely go work for somebody else. That's what he said.
But then, you know, it's in the places where, like, things are really trendy, like Brooklyn, for example, Upper East Side, Astor Place, you know, places local to us, Queens to a certain extent. Like, these are, like, new places are popping up. There's what's the name of the company that owns Mean Fiddler? What's the name? PMAC Hospitality Group, is it?
Yes.
So
they also owned
the Haswell Greens, Tanner Smiths, Dutch Freds,
all of them.
All those. So they have really good cocktail bars.
As a matter of fact, shout out quick Frankie.
Oh yeah, Frankie Oli
helped
cheers,
us with
Frankie.
Our cocktail menu first.
Big shout out. He's moving. He's gone and he is in Vegas.
The Oli Way.
Yeah, at
Oli Way.
The Oli Way. OLEY way. Yeah. So those guys, they're the same as, like, just Irish guys. I think one guy from Cavan. I know 2 of them are from Dublin, right?
Yes.
One guy's from Cavan.
Yeah.
But anyway,
funny story. I was barred from all their bars. When I used to drink, I don't drink anymore. But when I used to drink, the Mean Fiddler, I got kicked out of Mean Fiddler so many times.
Can't be good all the time, you know.
So many times. But I wrote them a letter.
You wrote them a letter?
I was like, I'm sorry, and I told one of their employees, like, I was actually meant to go work for them, and then I went in and I told their employees, I was like, tell the guys I'm super sorry that I'd ever caused inconvenience for them, and it's been a long time since I've drank, and I don't do that anymore. And honestly, then they actually reached out to me, and I got chatting to them, and they were like, thanks so much. And they helped me.
They were super helpful.
Yeah, they were helpful as well. But it's funny because they did, like, at one point they didn't even want me in one of their bars.
Whoa. We've got so much more to talk to Dano and James about. This conversation isn't over. Click that subscribe button on your platform so you don't miss the rest of this interview when it airs. Be sure to stop into the Blind Pig and let them know you heard this conversation.
Right at out now, Waiting on Fries court is in full effect. Judge J residing in the case of Waiting on Fries against the Yelp Reviewers of America. Prosecuting attorneys are Anu Bandel and Justin Zato. Order, order, order.
So this week's Yelp review goes as follows. On Friday, August 2nd, 2019 at 2:45 p.m., I went to the bar and ordered a beer to relax after a hard day's work. After I got the beer, I had to ask for a napkin. No customer service there. Then I took the glass of beer outside and sat at those comfortable cushioned chairs. I sat there from 3 p.m. to 3:45 p.m., and none of the 3 waitresses who were going outside to help other customers never came over and asked me if I wanted another beer. They passed me by as if I didn't exist. They didn't even smile at me or ask me if everything was okay. There were only 3 other tables with customers outside. The customer service was horrendous. I felt extremely bad when they ignored me and didn't even look my way. I was sitting in the middle of the patio section, so they could not say they did not see me. I'm 5'7" and very distinguished looking at 62 years old. I live in Larchmont, and for 45 minutes while I sat outside, nobody came to see if I wanted another beer, which I would have ordered.
What? I know exactly what Justin's going to say about this.
Exactly what I'm going to say.
I have an idea of what he might say, but I don't know if I know exactly what he's going to say. But what do you think he's going to say?
I think he's going to say, so they went to the bar, they got drinks, and then they went outside and sat themselves. But why didn't the servers pay any attention to them as they were sitting there with an empty drink?
I think regardless of if they sat themselves or if somebody sat them, for people to just walk by them, it's kind of rude.
I think in the industry period, you should have the 5-10 rule. We spoke about that before, but if you're within,
we haven't spoken about that on here before.
Okay, sorry. So the 5-10 rule, where with you're within 10 feet of somebody, you have to acknowledge them, like give them a look or acknowledge their existence. And if you're within 5 feet of somebody, you have to say something.
Yeah.
So if that's in place in an establishment, then you wouldn't have this scenario.
You wouldn't have this problem.
Completely. At the end of the day, too, it's everyone's job and responsibility to be paying attention to those that are sitting anywhere, that are looking around, looking like they maybe need some help. You can't just sit there and say, "Oh, it's not my table. It's not my guest. I'm not going to take care of them." That's not hospitable.
Hospitable?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Hospitable.
That's why you're here. Completely.
You know, the 5-10 rule is used for a hospitality rule. But to be honest, it's really just life, you know? Like,
yeah.
You walk by people and you're 5 feet away. You can give them a look, say hi, good morning, how are you, something.
Common courtesy.
I'm with you. I totally do that. I head shake all day except for my neighbor who keeps on removing the rock that I keep putting in the door to leave open. That guy does not get a hello from me.
That's a societal thing, though. We've kind of went away from acknowledging each other in real life.
Sure.
Easy access for everybody.
Totally.
And everybody's plugged in and just self-aware only and not aware with everything that's going on.
So the best piece of this review, though, is like it was a very professional answer.
I think the best takeaway from this review is be a decent human being.
Yeah, but I'm happy that the establishment actually answered appropriately and correctly and professionally, and they did their correct job at the end of the day.
The response from the ownership was, "I have no excuse for this lack of service and attention you received. I assure you that it will be discussed. Please visit us again and ask for one of us. I'm sure you will have a much better experience."
Boom. Done.
I mean, that is customer service right
It's as easy as that. And like,
come back and let us fix our mistake.
although this person needed a little bit more love and attention, and rightfully so, management was like, "Hey, I'm here for you. We screwed up. Please come talk to me." And they'll probably buy her a drink or an appetizer.
I'm sure they will.
Especially if she's a non-threatening 67-year-old, 5'7", very distinguished
looking 62-year-old from Larchmont.
Crazy.
That's not that crazy.
I mean, I'm
crazy is an ableist term.
I'm kind of picturing what this person looks like, and I can tell, I can gather a good idea of what this person looks like, and I can see where this is going to lead with the staff, and I can see them kind of, oh, this guy just got his beer and decided the whole patio is his, and he can just sit wherever he wants and do whatever he wants. And you can tell he has that kind of attitude because the way he described himself. Oh, I'm sorry, a she. But the way that he described himself.
She.
Oh, I keep saying it. I'm sorry. She, he. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter.
I'm sure it matters to this person.
It doesn't matter in the context, though. Whoever it is, the way they're describing themselves, I'm distinguished looking. I'm tall. Look at
5'2" is
me.
not
I'm
tall.
important. I leave work at 2:30 in the afternoon on a Friday.
You got all of these details wrong.
Nooms is in the kitchen. It's very black or white. It's right or it's wrong.
Back as I was saying,
That's what made distinguished funny.
Someone who's distinguished and tall and thinks very highly of themselves clearly needs a little bit of more service. So
Right.
I can see the staff being turned off by it and not wanting, because you see that a lot with staff who just get annoyed when people are very picky or very need things or extra attention. But that, I mean, you have to deal with that. You want
That's
to
what
talk.
you're there for.
Yeah, you want to talk about it in the back. Fine. I don't even love doing that. Like I hate when the staff
Congregates in the back. to
congregates
discuss
in the
about
back.
the
Say,
table.
oh, this guy does this and this guy does that. More often than not, it's just lack of awareness that led to. So the guy seats himself, right? You didn't see him walking around.
Right.
I'm sure he didn't. She didn't beeline out. It sounded like he got a drink at the bar, walked around the place, looked outside. It was nice. Decided to sit outside. If you have enough, if people are standing in the front of the house, if you have a host, usually the outside patio is.
Will like facilitate this move.
Yeah, you would have to pass the host stand from the bar to outside. Anybody's paying attention, you see the person wandering around,
Yeah.
and you would pick that up. And instead of just being annoyed that they sat themselves,
You just say to
Just go
say to
back.
somebody like,
Yeah.
"Hey, they're sitting in your section. Now go pay attention to them."
especially if it's not busy,
Yeah.
you know, it's
You
one.
know
It's one
it's-
thing if they seat themselves and you got like a wait for a table. You can just go over and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. We do have a wait for a table. I can get you the next seat available."
Yeah.
So and so, but if it's busy, like, who cares? Like, I don't understand why everybody cares so much. Oh my goodness, he sat in my table. I didn't tell him to sit there. How could he dare take my table?
And now I'm not going to pay any attention to him.
I agree. I agree with you.
I digress.
It's everyone's responsibility at the end of the day, whether it's your table or not, whether you pool tips or not. I mean, especially if you pool tips, it's everybody's responsibility at the end of the day.
Just take care of the guy.
Hey guys, do you think we should check our voicemail?
Hey, you've reached Waiting on Fries. Send us your voicemail.
You have one new message.
Hi guys, Brett here. I recently moved to San Francisco and have been looking for new restaurants to go to in my neighborhood. I found a few on Google, but when I tried going to the location listed, I found that they are only on Uber Eats and there's no physical restaurant. Since I do not support Uber Eats, it left me to wonder. In my search, I found that these aren't actually restaurants with a brick and mortar, but in fact called ghost restaurants. I've also noticed that 3 actual restaurants have closed in my neighborhood just this past week. What are your thoughts? How many restaurants on Uber Eats are actually ghost restaurants? Have you guys seen any of these in your area? Look forward to hearing your thoughts.
So these exist. They're called ghost kitchens,
True.
and it is a product of the ever-evolving restaurant business that we're in.
It's true. You just said a lot of facts. Is that it?
That wasn't really a lot of facts. It was a couple of facts. But yes, ghost kitchens exist. Have we any more thoughts on these?
I mean, we have some in our area. It is, I guess it could be a little confusing if you try to go to the actual restaurant.
I think it's a weird idea and or concept that we've kind of just allowed to spring up, you know?
Well, you can't disallow it or unallow it.
I mean, you could just not support them. And then eventually they would all just go away.
Yeah, but nobody knows they're ordering from a ghost kitchen when they order.
That's the problem.
And from a business side of things, where I sit on the other side of the spectrum, like, it's a fantastic problem. I would love to have a place that has minimal overhead, that has 7 different kitchens operating, and you're just like causing a monopoly on Uber Eats or Grubhub or whatever it is, and that's it.
That just seems so strange to me. Like, how could any of that food be good if you're cooking 7 different concepts out of one kitchen?
It's not.
It's
not.
That's what I mean.
But people will pay for convenience.
Yeah, and that's
where it's
what he
coming.
was arguing. But like, I don't get it.
You can take a product and have it be mediocre to above average and not be phenomenal, but the convenience of like you're sitting at home and you don't want to go be bothered and you're just scrolling and it looks good and you just hit on it and that's it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think eventually either people are going to realize that all of this food kind of sort of tastes the same, or people are going to realize all this food just doesn't taste good.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree with what you're saying, but unfortunately because of the way the society is now, and we're just kind of looking at everything that we see on Instagram or Facebook, it's very easy for these kitchens to kind of pop up and hit your feed and put a nice picture, and then you just order it because you're sitting at home and you want to be lazy.
I guess, and I get it, but then as a society, we just have to do better.
And
We
costs,
just like
and,
want
and
better.
costs go up too. And you see some. I've seen some restaurants that operate full restaurants, and then a little ghost kitchen out the back under a whole different name.
That's just
and you just put it on Uber Eats or Grubhub.
I mean, okay,
or
so maybe in that situation where it's just one other thing operating out the back of your restaurant that
Yeah.
maybe you like do on the side.
like
okay,
let's say
cool,
you
that
have-
makes sense.
Yeah, like you want to make soups and you're just like
Yeah,
soup
then
to
we
go,
back to the soup thing. Yeah,
whatever it is.
Fine, I get it. That can probably be good. That makes sense. But to have like 4 or 5 different concepts out of
Yeah,
one kitchen,
you're never gonna execute.
Yeah.
You're never gonna execute each concept
Well.
perfectly.
I wouldn't even
Or-
go so far perfectly well. You're never gonna do it all well.
No, you're not.
You
But
gotta focus on one thing and be good at that.
it's a different business model that's been created due to our need for convenience.
Yeah.
All I have to say though is, does it have to be done well for the business to be able to succeed?
I mean, you don't even
If
have
it
to
doesn't
be
have to be done well for you to succeed, like there's a problem.
There's a ton of businesses that just don't do great stuff, but like there's a clientele for it. The price is right, the speed is right,
But
but something
you-
they're willing to budge on a little bit.
You as a person, like as an individual, don't you want to do well?
There's always a scale of convenience to quality. There's a convenience to quality scale.
I guess.
Totally.
It's just how far down in quality are you willing
And
to
if
go?
if I was to own and operate this ghost kitchen, which sounds like a fantastic idea, I would make it just above mediocre. Get the sales and sell that business and re-roll the capital into a different business.
You would.
I totally would. Are you kidding me?
No, you would.
Without a doubt.
Mediocre at best.
Mediocre at best.
Mediocre at best.
That's why they call you
Sorry,
mediocre
guys.
books.
Sorry, guys.
Mediocre bugs.
Didn't mean to let you down.
Mediocre
With
books.
that being said, I have to get to operating a real restaurant where people come in and we serve good food and drinks.
How many concepts are you operating? Just one?
Just one
Good for you.
currently.
It's gonna
I
scale.
like 7.
So, good talk. See you out there.
Boom. Enjoyed the episode? We've got plenty more great conversations to come from people that make the hospitality industry work. We're extremely appreciative of those of you that would take a second to leave a review on your platform and click that subscribe button. This little podcast has grown significantly over the last 7 shows. Thanks for your support.